How to influence, persuade, and seduce clients. So what we're going to go over today is, for example, how to find our best assets to move clients forward. I want you to think about that. That's the question. And you should write that down. Write it down. How do you find your best assets today to move a client forward? Whether it's a buyer, whether it's a seller, it doesn't matter. A renter, landlord, how do you do that? Learning how to influence, persuade, and seduce our clients is what we're going to talk about today. And there's ways to do that. Why do you hear the word seduce? It's typically in a romantic environment, is it not? Okay. Well, seduce is also into the sales environment. People actually like you. They trust you. They believe in you. It's a form of seduction. You have it naturally. We all have these little traits that are there. There's a guy named Robert Greene, an author, Robert Greene. He wrote a book that's called The Art of Seduction. Even my 16-year-old read that book. I have a copy. I bought one for my daughter, and she reads it too. There are different forms of seduction. You have a natural, when you could identify the trait of what makes a person feel good. For example, a person that is natural way of being seduced is they tend to be like a little baby, even at 40 years old or 46 years old. You would hear them say something like, "Oh, come on, come on, let's go to the movies. Oh, come on, sign this agreement." That's a natural form of seduction. So if you can appeal to them in that way, they will come your way. There's different arts of seduction. So we're not going to get into that deep today, but we want to bring your awareness to it. And then we're going to talk about why. Why do you need to persuade, influence, and seduce your clients? And we're going to talk about the currently what you are doing. You could give some feedback on what you're doing to develop your ability to influence and persuade someone. And then we're going to jump into a fast track on techniques that work. And then we're going to bring it all together. This part you already know. I wrote the book, and let's just talk about a little bit of where I've been. My salesmanship comes from the United States Navy, and that's my background. How did I discover that influencing is easy was because of a special technique. Some of you know it and have been through the course, the 5 steps of the sale. It's a particular system that we use in order to persuade, influence, and seduce our clients. It's methodical. It's a step-by-step process. If we don't achieve one step, we don't go to the next step. Because if you think about it, if there's 17 flights of stairs, can you, as a human being, from step one, can you actually physically jump to step 17? No. And that's why when you're influencing someone and persuading someone, it's a systematic approach and there's an art to it. I've used the system, and this is not here to sell you on anything. To my system, I've come into I say our system because, there's people here that know this system. We use it to sell, I've used it to sell United States Navy, computers, cars, life insurance products, real estate. The very first book I wrote is this one, The Art and Science of Real Estate Agent, Day One, Close a Deal. You guys know it. My brother was a mortgage broker. First day I got my license, he gave me a lead. He said it's $250,000 FHA financing. I called the lead. The lead said they wanted to see houses that night in Winston Park in Coral Springs. I showed them. When I showed them, I closed them that night. And this was 2003. So my first deal, I made over $5,000. And I said, whoa. And that was day one. My first year, I could pull my tax returns. My first year in real estate, I did $146,000 I'll never forget that. It was a bit more than my life insurance planning business, but I was still doing six figures. But real estate was better. Real estate has been able to keep people that I know, my friends, my colleagues, you, some of you here, in the six-figure bracket all the time, year over year over year over year. You just have to practice it and push yourself through it. So why? Why should you use influence, persuasion, seduction with your clients? Well, this is some of the questions, some of the answers. If you want to grow and build your business, you definitely should be able to influence, persuade, and seduce your clients. You want to build your business, right? You want to see it grow. If you want to get more closings, I mean, I guess this means growing the business, mean more closings. Yes, you should be able to persuade, influence, and seduce someone. If you want to build strong relationships, you should know how to influence, persuade, and seduce someone. Growing relationships, meaning that people just always think of you first. It could be 5 years down the line. Somewhere along the line, they just said, oh my gosh, we're going to sell the house. First person comes to mind is Nancy. I got to call Nancy. Get constant weekly referrals. Yes, if you're able to do these things and follow some techniques of meditation, you can actually manifest and bring things into your daily life. You can get this. It happens. It's happening. And build the best reputation out there when you're able to influence, persuade, and seduce someone. And influence even came into play for me as a leader in the United States Navy. They said, you have this dictatorship type of leadership or um, two different kind of leaderships. But my leadership style has always been influencing. It's like more permanent for me. I could come in and say, hey, you clean the floor. That's it. Or I could say, hey, listen, how you feeling right now? Okay, great. I want you to mop the entire floor on the first deck and get it done and buff it out. And as a matter of fact, when you're finished doing that, I know it's such a big job, you could have the rest of the day off. How does that sound? That's always been my leadership style. And I've always been able to get, the people that I deal with to really move. And so when I took it into my sales, then I recognized that influencing is all about educating, inspiring, and understanding that you're responsible for sending and receiving your information. Very interesting. How would you rate your ability to influence someone today on a scale of 1 to 10? Write down the second thing. Where am I right now with my ability to persuade, influence, and seduce someone? A client in particular, a buyer, seller. Think about that. And you need to walk away from here today saying to myself, for the rest of the year and into 2025, this is something that I have to build on. You want to survive? The market is shifting and it's shifting, and the whole dynamics of the industry is shifting, and you must be prepared. So, more now than ever, you must be prepared. You're going to do or you're going to die. You're going to swim or you're going to sink. And don't sink, not around here. So we rated ourselves. That's good. Now, a proven technique, some of you know it, some of you don't, is right what Stevenson is talking about is, and I'm not going to go in depth. I'm just going to give you an introduction here. There's a 5 steps to the sale. You can get the book, you can do the audio, you can do whatever, learn the course. It's up to you. But put something in your mind today to know that there's 5 unique steps to influence and persuade and seduce a client. There's conversation. And let me tell you something, for those of us who've been through the course, this thing is no joke. There is so much involved inside of the dynamics of a powerful conversation with a client. You got so much to do to get them to like you, to listen to you, trust you, believing in you, get their want, need, DBM, to get their target to buy, to get their, it's all kind of stuff that's happening. The dynamics of it is phenomenal. And for people that don't know it or don't use a systematic approach, it's pitiful. I'm sorry to say, because it's impeding the growth of their business. So conversation is the first thing you should do. Then you're going to go into step two, which is curiosity, and you actually make that person hungry to hear your proposal, is what it means. They're listening, because you can talk or you can show something and somebody don't listen to you. You know that. They look like they're listening, but they're not listening. So you must create the curiosity, which lead into step three, which is conviction. And then this is where you give your presentation. And the most important thing about your presentation is it has to have what we call the want need DBM that you discovered from the step one. It must have it in there, and it must have what we call the undeniable truth. And it's something that is really profound, undeniable truth. It really puts them on the edge to make that decision. And when they make the decision, they bypass step four and they say, yeah, where do I sign? So step one, conversation. Step two, curiosity. Step three is conviction. And then step four, we bypass this. When we do step one, two, and three, very good. We bypass four, which is desire, and we go to step five. But there's a secret to step five. Now, why did we skip step four? And what is step four? Step four is objection handling. So sometimes there might be a little objection, but you see, when you really study this system and you understand the system, there are few reasons why people don't move forward. Some of them is that, hey, listen, maybe they're not significantly disturbed by their problem. Now that's very big for me to say that, but I make it broad. They're not significantly disturbed by their problem. Write that down. Think about it. How do you get someone to be significantly disturbed by their problem? But objection handling is very important. Objections are always just a question in disguise, and you need to know how to handle it. So, how do you come up with a system that's going to allow you to persuade, influence, and seduce a client? You think about that today. And you have to decide on what you're going to use to get yourself going, moving forward. So now, influence, persuasion, and seduction is something that you need. Now, this is just from one clip from the course, and we just kind of share it with you on what you need to do is you have to have the right perception. It's no, we can't get deep with you on this. Perception is how people see you. You got to dress right. You got to look professional. You got to be able to ability to gain trust. There's many ways to gain trust, and you need to learn how to do that. The ability to read the playing field, what's happening around you. You go on a listening appointment, you talking to someone on the phone, how can you associate with them with three major techniques? How can you do that? Association, mirror, and psychological reciprocity. You have to define these things. And then you have to have the right mindset. These are things that you need in order to influence, persuade, and seduce a client. All of this right here, all of this on the screen. Very important. This is from the Harvard Business Review. And it says that there's 7 reasons salespeople don't close the deal. And we're going to go over them and then we're going to close this out. One, they're not trusted. So once again, you got to get the clients to trust you and to respect you. They don't know how to converse effectively. You don't really know. You're responsible for your communication, for what you're saying and what you're taking in. You're responsible for that. That's what influence is. They can't clearly explain how their solution helps the client. We can't do that. Well, why can't you? Ask yourself that. They're too self-centered. A lot of realtors, when they make that big money, a $20,000, $30,000 check, a $15,000 check, it drives this ego. I'm the big dog. Even myself, at one time, I was arrogant many, many years ago, and I had to check myself and calm down. Don't be self-centered. You have to use the wrong. They use the wrong closing strategy. They don't know how to take a person through a systematic approach. They don't alleviate the risk of buying their solution. There's no risk. You got to take the risk out, and they can't establish personal connection. What can you do? What are some of the techniques you could do to use to get connected to a client? These are things you got to ask yourself and you've got to get good at. Very important. So let's wrap it up. What we've discussed: how to use a systematic approach to get your clients to close with you and only you. How do you do that? We talked about using a systematic approach of conversation, curiosity, conviction, desire, and close, getting connected with them, understanding them, and delivering to them. We talked about getting people to keep sending referrals to you. You have to think about that consciously. Do they really like you? Do they trust you? Do they believe in you? Do they understand you? Do you understand them? Do they respect you? Because when they do, they will always think of you first. Could be many years to come. How we can always, we also talked about how we can always get people thinking about us first. One of the stories here that I want to share with you is that the listing that I have right now, Brittany, you're going to be doing open house on it. Thank you so much. When you go in the living room, Brittany, and you look to the left side of the living room, you're going to see a plant, a beautiful plant in a pot. And that plant I gave to the wife, Shireen, 5 years ago, and the husband. And Shireen, when I did the walkthrough to take the listing, she says, Paul, come look, Paul, come look, come look. I said, what? She said, look at this. You see that? You gave that to us, you know? You gave it to us. Oh my gosh, it's been 5 years. She said, Paul, it was looked like it was gonna die. And I said, no, no, husband, it can't die. This is just a little tip. I always do a plant. It's a living thing. So what can you do to people? Have a heart. When you close a deal, it's not about the money alone. Yes, you got to pay the bill, but you got to have a heart. You got to love them. They're a human being. Give them something as a gift that they can remember. And I like to give plants. And finally, the facts and trends, we talked about it. And the trends, they don't lie. We talked about how salespeople are not having the skill set that they need, and they're not even able to maintain what they truly need. So that's important. We talk about serendipity right here, but serendipity is the occurrence of events by chance. So in an accidental way. So I'm going to read it to you. The occurrence and development of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way. Can you imagine if you had some kind of comfort zone where you're constantly ending up in serendipity? You drive, you leave out your house today, you get the first parking spot, you get all the green lights going down, you get the phone ringing. How do you do that? It's by you having some kind of system that you believe in and you constantly fine tune it and use it. That is how you develop that by far. It's been more than 30 years that I've been doing this and it works. So we talked about today influencing, persuading, and seduction.